Welcome to Whitespace, Data Center Dynamics' weekly look at news from the world of data centers. So, Max, you got out of the office this week. You went to Data Center World. How was that?
Yes, well, it's a huge show. It's got four components. There's data center world, there's a cloud world, there's a IoT world, and I believe cloud security world. Mm-hmm. But they all happen at the same venue. So whether that's one expo or several, I mean, you have to choose for yourself. Some interesting things. There's a couple of stories on the site. It's happening in London, so mostly British news. One of the things I spotted, though, was Reichle De-Massari. Mm-hmm. They're Swiss cabling specialists. They have created a cabling system that can bring 120 strands of fiber into a single U.
Whoa! And this is fiber, not copper.
Yes. So it's a world record. It's brand new. This sort of like cabling system. Congratulations, Reichle De-Massari. I mean, it took them a while. Took a lot of prototypes. They do 3D printing now massively because it's cheap, cheerful, and it allows them to design things really, really nicely. And so there's a bunch of bells and whistles to the system. Like you can add LEDs that will identify a particular cable that has a problem, for example.
All right, good stuff.
So that's my adventures in fiber, but it's not the only fiber record we've had this week, right?
Indeed. Hong Kong Poly University in Hong Kong has broken the world data center speed record. That's the speed with which they can send data over a fiber a distance of 2 kilometers, which is bigger than most data centers. But the interesting thing about this is a lot faster than fiber on the market, and it's not done by any kind of huge improvements of the physical signaling or the fiber itself. It's to do with information processing. A signal going along a fiber will degrade according to the patterns of interference and stuff within the fiber. They analyse huge amounts of data about the signal that went in and the signal that came out and extract a pattern they can subtract from the signal and end up with a cleaner one.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, and that increases, is that latency or bandwidth?
That increases bandwidth, the amount of gigabits you can get down signal. It doesn't make the light go any faster.
Yeah. There's physical limitations to that.
Yes. Although, yes, we have heard of another effort to make light go faster down fibre. It's very theoretical. I've only just heard about it, not seen it in action. Mm-hmm. Instead of having a glass fibre, you have a hollow fibre. That means you get the speed of light in a vacuum, effectively, not the speed of light in glass. So, there's a data centre in Lithuania with some interesting aspects.
Yes, I am exported from the Baltics, so that's my home turf. And Lithuania is a small but very proud country, and now they're sort of like former incumbent sort of telecoms provider. Now they're just the biggest telecoms provider in Lithuania. They have built a small but very proud data center with some interesting features. So I think it's just about 300 racks, so not that big. But two things. One, it's certified Tier 3 design and operations.
Right.
Not a lot of people do that. There's sort of maybe a dozen of these, like really sort of like high-level redundancy data centers in Europe.
Right.
And they're one of them.
I'm guessing it's the first in the Baltics.
I don't think so. I think actually these guys have started to certify with Uptime Institute quite a while ago.
Oh, right.
And it's a classy data center. Two, Kyoto cooling. So the giant heat wheels that mix the air together, and it's sort of like the system doesn't require water, and essentially free cooling. It's just a clever way to mix your air streams inside the data center, and they're using that as well. And again, it's sort of like the number of deployments is probably in there, it's double digits and not more than that. So they're treading new ground. Teo Data Centers. So if you need a data center in Lithuania, do give these guys a call. And we've got some news from Amazon this week as well, and the news is that Amazon is big, really,
Yes.
really big.
So that's not really news, is it? Amazon Web Services, the biggest public cloud provider that's so big it's bigger than the next 15 on the list or something like that. In his annual letter, Jeff Bezos has said that Amazon Web Services will do $10 billion of business this year. You can be reasonably sure of that because it's on a steep growth curve and the last quarter was 2.4 billion, so multiply that by 4, add a bit and you get 10 billion, which shows a very fast growth, faster than anything else, including Amazon, which is already the fastest growing company under various measures. Amazon itself has reached 100 billion this year. So huge. And a little side note to that is that AWS is now at 10 billion. It's big enough to be like a company of its own. So Andy Jassy, the man who's been leading it since it started, he's been appointed as CEO of AWS.
So the moment of let's make it official, shall we?
Yes, that's right. And let's not forget processors and ARM chips, which we like, are back in the news.
Absolutely. So while I was wandering the halls at the data center world, I stumbled upon these guys, and essentially two companies side by side, founded by two friends. One of them is doing hardware. What they're developing is these tiny micro servers. Okay, you've heard microservice before, but these are slightly different. They're literally, it's just like a PCB, right, with some with a couple of chips on it. And the idea is you have a storage server and you have some hard drives, right? But rather than having a single server for all of those hard drives, so if the server fails, all of the drives fail, you have a small server for every single hard drive. So that does wonderful things with your I/O, and it does wonderful things with your reliability, because if one of the hard drives or one of the servers fails, you just lose one drive. But it gets better.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yes, because they've already been deployed by these guys called CineSpace. Now that's the second part of the equation, the second friend. And he's actually built a cloud storage service on this technology, and he's saying they can do it cheaper than pretty much anyone else. So it's the prices start at something like, what is it? Okay, it's €1 per gigabyte all inclusive. That's just ridiculous.
That's crazy.
So you can try the service already. Official launches in a couple of weeks. And the hardware, I mean, you can test the hardware.
Right. Well, that answers the first question I was going to have, which was, doesn't it put the price up if you have to have an extra server for every hard drive?
Apparently, it doesn't. And I mean, I believe it's Open Compute compatible, and everything is hot swappable, and it sounds like a brilliant piece of kit, but we need to wait for the official launch, we need to look at the numbers, so sounds brilliant in theory, we'll see how it actually works.
Yeah, and the other thing is, these are hard drives and not solid state drives. Or...
You could plug solid state drives in there, it's just like at the moment they're going for the lowest price point possible, right. So hence the drives, but plugging SSDs there, I asked them, definitely doable.
Okay, exciting.
So we're talking about reliability of storage, and Google had some problems with theirs, right?
Yes, not so much storage. The Google Compute engine went offline for nearly 20 minutes, and obviously several startups were
folded.
Well, just, sort of disappeared for a short while. As we know, Google's cloud effort is still very small compared to Amazon, and it, over the last year or so, had quite a few instances where it's had these little failures, which I think is something, I wouldn't draw too many conclusions from it. Growing pains seem to be what's going on, and the same kind of thing happened with Microsoft Azure, as I remember, and before it, I'm sure, with Amazon.
Software as well. I mean, it happens to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, in this instance, it is a bit embarrassing, and Google produced a longer and more, frankly, grovelling explanation than usual, because what happened was they retired some IP addresses that were being used by Google Compute Engine, and when the when they went to propagate that change in the in the network addressing structure, they owing to a timing error and an previously unknown software glitch, they actually propagated a change which removed all the IP addresses that were being used by Google Compute Engine. And we then watched apparently the one by one as this propagated to all the Google data centers, and then it basically failed, and they realized what was going on, rolled back to the previous version, and have made, they say, 14 separate changes to their procedures to make sure it never happens again, ever.
Very cool. That's what we want to see, right? Not just, oh, we're sorry, I mean, not actually our fault. Throw an engineer under the bus, you know, like how it happens.
Yes, that's right. The apology also came from a man called Benjamin Traynor Sloss, whose job title is VP of 24/7 at Google. So we wish him well for the next little while, because I'm sure if Google is expanding the way it's going to be doing, he may have a few issues to deal with in the process.
Good luck, Benjamin. Yes, and some big changes in power distribution, at least in politics of power distribution, with one of the large vendors going off in search of mountains of gold.
Well, possibly. Emerson Network Power is spinning off its power unit, and in the process has given it a new name. It's called Vertiv, which is a strange little name, and not quite sure where that comes from. An Emerson vice president is going with it to lead it, a guy called Scott Barber, who from all accounts is the right person to be doing this. I think the network power bit of Emerson hasn't been performing as well as they hoped, and the intention here is that by spinning it off into something separate, it can operate more independently and do things better. And we wish it all the best. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on White Space.
Bye-bye.